What's going on, guys? JP back at you once again, bringing you guys day number 11 in my 11th annual 31 Days of Horror, a series in which we watch and review 31 horror films in 31 days, all done in the month of October. This one might be a little bit longer, so I kind of wanted to start right away. So, the film that I watched for today is I actually watched it a couple days ago, but reviewing it now. Which most of these titles that I review I watched a while ago, or I recorded the video a while ago from the time that you're seeing it. But that's besides the point. Hellraiser 2022. The Hulu exclusive new Hellraiser film, a remake, I guess. I mean, it kind of could be a sequel even like half of the other films in the franchise are kind of like their own thing. They're not really a sequel, and that's kind of like what this is. It's more of its own thing. It doesn't feel like it's directly remaking Hellraiser. But first and foremost, this is a film that I've been waiting on for such a long time. Even before it was announced, I wanted to see a remake of Hellraiser because I just think that the source material is so strong in The Hellbound Heart, which I've recently read, and I think that the original film added a lot that the Hellbound Heart didn't have in it that I thought was really, really cool. And, all the comic books, I read a couple of those. The sequel novel that Clive Barker wrote. Just even the sequels to Hellraiser, like the later ones, had some interesting ideas, even if they weren't executed properly. Most of those films I do like, but they are just a shell of what Hellraiser is in the first two films, at least. And I just thought that the material was ripe for a remake. It just had such an interesting thing to do, a dark, practical effects, serious remake, and that's what I wanted to see for such a long time, especially after there was a couple failed attempts with Clive Barker involved. I think Patrick Lussier and Todd Farmer wrote a script back when the property was with Dimension, but ever since the whole Weinstein thing happened with Harvey Weinstein and the sexual assault case, Hellraiser has kind of been a little unsure. But then we got the announcement of the Bruckner remake. For those of you who don't know, like, the Hellraiser rights were eventually took over by Dimension in, I want to say, like, the fourth entry. I believe that was their first entry, and they did a really bad job with that one. I think Hellraiser 4 kind of sucks, but I also think that it would be better had Dimension and the Weinstein brothers not inserted themselves into the entire production of the film, because there's like a work print out there, and there's like it seemed like more of an interesting film before they started meddling with it. But that's beside the point. This isn't like a full breakdown of the Hellraiser series, but really quickly, they had this clause in the rights where if they didn't make a film in a certain amount of years, then the rights would revert back to whoever or go to whoever. So every couple of years they would do a new Hellraiser film. That's why we got like them, like Hellworld and Deader back to back, and it was like they were doing those Hellraiser films, and there's rumors that a lot of those scripts were not Hellraiser scripts. They were like cheap horror scripts that they inserted Pinhead into, sprinkled him in, Cenobites, stuff like that. And then some of them connected, some of them didn't. But it's a very weird franchise, and I thought actually Hellraiser Judgment was pretty solid, considering like what it was, and I would have liked to see what they did with that. But anyway, with that said, we actually have Hellraiser 2022, the David Bruckner directed film. And David Bruckner did the Ritual, I believe, which was that great Netflix film about the people hiking in the woods and stuff like that. Really creepy, good stuff. I think he also did some of the VHS segments, and I know I think he's done other things. I just can't remember. But he, pretty credible horror guy. I think he actually was attached to do the Friday the 13th remake at one point, the like found footage one or whatever that they were going to do. But he got a hold of the Hellraiser film for Hulu. So I don't know really where to start with this one, because this was a big film. I was really looking forward to this film. And I guess I'll just start off with this right off the bat. I am disappointed in it. I didn't think that it was what it should have been, in a way. So the film it opens up with a transaction of the puzzle box, the Lamachat configuration, or the Lament configuration, or Lamont if you follow 22 shots. Um, but that's an inside joke. Some of you might get it. But there's a swap, and this woman picks up the box from like another person, and this other guy has the box, and he basically tricks another person into messing with the puzzle. He gets stabbed, and then a bunch of chains come out, and it's Hellraiser. Flash forward, I believe, 6 years, and we're following a new character who I do really like, by the way. I did really enjoy this actress. I don't know her name off the top of my head, but I really liked her. She has a brother. She's a recovering drug addict. She's dating this guy. The brother doesn't really think the guy is good for her because they met in like NA or something like that. Anyway, the brother and the sister have like a huge like turmoil relationship, and essentially she's gravitating closer to this new boyfriend. She has a job, but she doesn't like her job. She needs to make more money so she can find her own place or something like that. The boyfriend talks about this, this thing he used to do where he used to work, and he knew about the shipping container, and it probably has some valuable stuff in it because there's a bunch of rich guys who use this stuff, and convinces her to come break into it and steal whatever's in there. They do. What's inside is the puzzle box, the infamous Hellraiser puzzle box, and she gets into a big fight with her boyfriend, or her brother, gets kicked out, messes with the box, opens up the box. Her brother comes looking for her. She's like in the park, like having crazy dreams. The brother ends up getting something. Something happens to him. He's missing, and it's up to her and her brother's boyfriend, and her boyfriend and their friend to find the missing brother, and that's basically the story. Now, there are things I liked about this film and things that I didn't like about it. This is by the way, this will be spoiler free. The whole idea of the film didn't feel Hellraiser to me. Now, they definitely changed, like they didn't remake the 1987 Hellraiser film. It's nothing like that film. There are some actual nods to that film, which is kind of cool, I guess. But they didn't really remake that film. They didn't remake a Hellbound Heart, or readapt a Hellbound Heart either. The Hellbound Heart either. They just did their own story. And there's elements of Hellraiser in there, like the puzzle box and the Cenobites, and that's kind of it. At least what I got from it. For the most part, this film's like a slasher film or something, It's more along the lines of like Hellraiser 3. It actually feels a good bit like Hellraiser 3 when I think about the JP character and like the pillar, like, needing souls to sort of like rebuild type thing. I guess that's a Frank thing too. So I guess, no, I don't know, it kind of reminded me of that, but it, like, instead of it being about this like love story where this Frank and Julia, and Frank not having skin and needing to murder people to feed him, it's more they're just feeding the box, which is, I feel like it kind of misses the point of the source material. And I know, like, movies are allowed to be different. They are. I literally argue this all the time. Like, when people are like, well, in the book, I'm always like, I don't care what's in the book. I'm watching the movie. So, like, I'm kind of being a little hypocritical here. But I guess I'm just trying to explain why I was disappointed. And, like, I'm not saying that the film had to be like that. It didn't have to follow that sort of template or anything like that. If they were going to do something else, I feel like this was kind of generic. It was kind of a basic horror film. Like, and don't get me wrong, I don't think this movie is bad at all. I don't. I liked it. I would actually consider that I like this film. I'm just saying that I was disappointed based on my expectations. I felt like it was the idea that they're feeding the box, and each time that they feed the box, the configuration changes, and eventually like the Leviathan thing and stuff. I was just like, this is just kind of like, okay. I mean, it kind of drops the whole idea of like the pleasure and pain, the demons to some, angels to other, that made Hellraiser so damn interesting and unique. And I don't really know if that's like a good choice. Like, the mythology of Hellraiser was so rich that you could do so much with it. And I feel like this is just sort of a general audience horror film where like anybody can enjoy it, whereas like I feel like the original source material of Hellraiser and like the original Hellraiser film, I think anybody can enjoy it, but I think if you really look into it, you kind of can get it in a different way. like even like a lot of the stuff from the original film, like, you know, it wasn't like the second film, it isn't hands who call us, it's desire, and stuff like this whole concept that the person is seeking something beyond the normal world and like the normal flesh, you know. And it has like none of that, or like I missed it, I don't know. It's not about that. And I think that's where I became disappointed, because I thought that was like a cool, I've always loved that about Hellraiser. Whereas like this film, it's just feels like a typical type of horror film, like a teen horror film that, you know, it's kind of basic. Now I will say, you know, to get into like the Cenobites and stuff, I thought they were cool. I think that the lighting was a bit off for me. You know, in the original film, I feel like it was like lit so spooky, but like you could actually see the Cenobites, but they weren't like, it wasn't like bright or anything. It was just like, it was like a vibe, you know. Whereas this one, it just feels like they're kind of hidden in the dark a little bit. And we don't, I felt like we didn't really get a good look at like their get up and stuff like that, which was always one of the coolest things about Hellraiser, is like seeing them. They had such presence, where I don't feel like the presence is really there with these ones. I did like the new actress playing Pinhead. I forget her name. Jamie Clayton, is it? I did like her. I don't think she has the like presence of Doug Bradley as Pinhead, but again, I don't think you really need that, because when I read the Hellraiser novella, I never like, it doesn't feel like Doug Bradley's Pinhead, that Pinhead. Like, it doesn't really feel like that character, so that's fine. I thought she was pretty good. It was definitely a cool idea to do like a more feminine type of Pinhead. And again, you know, like the I don't really think of them heavily in gender form anyway, because they feel like, you know, beings like demons and stuff. But yeah, I mean, I thought it was cool. There's some good blood in it. I liked some of the aspects of it in terms of like nobody really believing the girl, and you know, what happened to her brother and stuff like that. That stuff was alright, but overall, I think the movie's solid. I don't think it's definitely better than like a lot of the franchise. Don't get me wrong. In my opinion, it comes nowhere close to part 1 or 2. It's more along the lines of like a part 3 for me. I'm happy it was made. I'm glad that we get to see sort of a different take on Hellraiser, because everything doesn't have to be exactly the same. I just wish that even if it wasn't the same, taking that source and either the novella or the original 2 films, I wish it would have been something a little bit different than what we actually ended up getting. It didn't have to be that, but I just wish it wasn't necessarily this. So yeah, that's kind of my opinion on the new Hellraiser. I gave it a 7 out of 10. I think it's solid. I wanted something different. I think I did. Now, I always say it's really, really, really bad to have any expectations on a film. because you are high expectations, especially because you're going to be disappointed. So I always try to go into films like completely blank, no feelings one way or another. But every once in a while, that kind of gets past me, like it did with this Hellraiser film, where I actually had very high expectations. I really liked Bruckner. I thought that we were going to see something really, really cool. And although it was cool, I think that it was kind of a little too tame and basic. Like, I expected it to be a little bit crazier. Now, it was made for Hulu, so that could factor in. But I would have loved to see this like vicious and dark, you know what I mean? Just like grimy and just a hardcore Hellraiser. But that's not what we got. It's okay. I would be very curious to know what like you guys think of the film, because I'm seeing most people like it. I see a lot of meh, and then I see a lot of people who love it. I don't really see a lot of people that are like kind of where I am, where it's like it was good, but I'm disappointed. So please, I know you guys, some of you guys comment, but please, if you're watching this, I really am curious to know what other people thought. If I'm way off base, if you think I'm focusing too much on the source material and the novella, which I always preach against, or you guys, you know, kind of line up with me. Let me know what you think. So with that said, I know this one's a little bit longer than my typical reviews, but I really wanted to get into this film. So. And like sort of the history of it. So with that said, peace out. 7 out of 10. See you guys next time. Later.